Quick synopsis recap of Season 1. War is coming. Quick synopsis recap of Season 2. War is coming. Promise. And now Season 3 is on our doorstep. It finally looks like war is here. Hopefully. We've had some dust-ups to warm us up for the main conflict, but as we head into Season 3, which side has the advantage? What is each team bringing in terms of military might, naval numbers, and dragon deadliness? And how does this factor into the conflict? Join me, Sir Liam, today as we cover Team Black in Part 1, and join Lord Tom, also today as he covers the Greens in Part 2 in his own video. Also guys, let us be clear on this. Some people have only read the mainline series or just watched the shows. I'm asking this nicely. Please don't be dicks and spoil things in the comments. If people want to know what happens, they'll go look it up for themselves. And just to cover our backs further, here's another probably pretty important disclaimer. Doo-doo. Doo-doo. Done reading, guys? Good. Form the battle lines, and let us march to war. Let's start with the banners marching under Queen Rhaenyra as she flies into battle. This can give us an idea of both military and political strength. Something to note about this conflict is it differs quite a bit from the War of the Five Kings, in which entire regions took a side for the most part. Some regions did technically unilaterally declare for the Blacks or the Greens, as in no house in the region supported the other side, but it was much more a game of individual houses throwing in their lot with one side or the other, and many houses just didn't bother getting involved. For the Crown Lands, Queen Rhaenyra has these houses backing her claim. When you stack this next to Team Green's presence in the region, which is effectively just House Fawn, this is almost a clean sweep for Rhaenyra. She holds the overwhelming political majority of those getting involved, and effectively has King's Landing surrounded by its own vassals. The Crown Lands, however, are quite a small region and aren't famed for their military prowess. So while all these names look great on paper, only one is truly noteworthy, and that's this one right here. House Velaryon is extremely powerful at this point in time. Not as a land-based army, but at sea. They provide Rhaenyra with her most valuable naval asset. But more on this in the naval section. The next kingdom we'll look at is the Reach. Even though the Green's figurehead is of Reach descent, Rhaenyra isn't without friends here. But while that Tarly banner may look impressive, the guy that makes it impressive hasn't been born yet, making Rhaenyra's support in the Reach overall just rather lackluster. In the Reach, there are three big names that mean something: the Tyrells, the Redwynes, and the Hightowers. Team Green has two of these houses, but unfortunately for our queen, the Roses are on their entitled vacation leave and simply can't be asked to get involved, leaving our queen without a major player on side. The exact same can be said of the Stormlands. Rhaenyra isn't totally without friends here, but again, Team Green has the houses that count, including the Daddy House. Ours is not the Fury, it seems. We're a bit outgunned in the south here. Let's start making our way north. In the Riverlands, things are looking much better. Look at all those lovely banners. Not quite a full sweep, but most of it. And much like the Green's advantage in the Reach, Queen Rhaenyra has the names that count here. That being the Freys, the Mallisters, and the Daddy House of the region, the Tullys. This is a strong card in Rhaenyra's deck. The Riverlanders are hardy, stubborn bastards, especially if they're unified, bringing some much-needed oomph to help counter the thunderous forces of the Stormlands. Having this much control over the Riverlands also brings a slew of economical benefits, since the Riverlands is the only region that can even come close to competing with the Reach for agriculture and food distribution, and as such forms somewhat of a breadbasket for the regions backing the Queen. A strong political card to hold, as it means no Rose Road bullshit. Get fucked, usurper! After this, Rhaenyra has uncontested support from the Vale and the fucking North, in the form of these houses here. The Vale is a big buff to the Blacks. It's a powerful region famed for its military prowess and the quality of its knights. Especially since the big players of the region, particularly the Corbrys, the Royces, surprisingly, and of course the Mother House, the Arryns, have all raised their swords for our queen. But the region you probably expect me to glaze is actually the region that's currently the least helpful. Yep, the fucking North. On paper, having these guys should be a massive W, especially House Stark, who along with the Lannisters of the Westerlands seem to be the only Lord Paramounts who can make their vassals say, "Yes, Daddy," at the drop of a hat, without so much of a hint of backtalk. In the books, this allegiance is sealed with Cregan making a pact with Jace, known as the Pact of Ice and Fire, involving the marriage of Jace's first future-born daughter to Cregan's son. But, well, despite this, the Lord of Winterfell denies the prince's initial request to call his banners, owing to needing his men for the winter harvest. What results from this is that the largest and one of the most militarily formidable regions ends up chipping in a paltry 2,000 old men whom are sent down to go down in a blaze of glory and ease the burden on their families having to feed them in winter. Think of it as the England football fans going on tour. This merry tour is led by one Lord Dustin and a few knights from White Harbour, led by two of the current Lord Manderly's heirs, who pledged to the Queen's cause for this opening round, with Cregan promising to send more later. But we are very much given the impression Lord Stark is saying, "Look, I'm busy. I'll help out more later, but only if I have to." After this, Rhaenyra has one last military chip to throw on the table in the form of foreign support, and that's Moorish sellswords led by one Black Trombo. How useful? Well, if you've paid them well enough to secure their loyalty, I suppose sellswords can come in handy. Though, just make sure not to ask Tywin Lannister for referrals. And that concludes the military and political cards Rhaenyra holds going into this conflict. Now let's have a quick look at her maritime might. There are 3 big naval powers to have in your corner in Westeros, and Rhaenyra currently has one of them, the Velaryon Fleet. This is the precursor to what eventually becomes known as the Royal Fleet, and at this specific point in time, is oft held up as the most singularly powerful war fleet in Westeros in terms of both quantity and quality, able to simultaneously blockade trade routes and crush other navies with ships left over to spare. You've also got the Vale's fleet, which we don't know the size and quality of, only that it is decent and battle-tested, and the Mallister's force at Seaguard. Though it would be fair to say the Mallister's naval support is token at best, since it's only really big enough to provide defense to Seaguard itself and its adjoining town. As you can see, the rightful queen definitely has blood and sails to spend in the naval department, and I would like to say this advantage is overwhelming. But as you'll see in part 2, the Greens also came to play for keeps regarding the sea. One thing we'll note in both videos regarding the clash over the waves is that the Ironborn are still yet to declare their allegiance, with both sides making attempts to get them to join their cause. As you all know, I rate the Ironborn highly. I think they're fucking wonderful. The ships are noted to not be as up to snuff as the mainland vessels, but the Ironborn can make up for this lack of quality by inexplicably offsetting it with the quantity of their warships and their outright skill with naval combat. They would be a massive boon to the Blacks' cause just by virtue of their location. With their home base on the western side of the continent, their raising their sails for Rhaenyra could keep both the Lannister navy and perhaps more concerningly that colossal red wine fleet on the defensive and prevent them from, fucking the Velaryon fleet in the arse. That pinning action by itself is almost as valuable as a dragon. Not to mention all the lovely offensive and raiding opportunities. Hey, Dalton? Since 2 of the Green's big-time wealthy players are within an easy and convenient striking distance for those tiny, damp, worthless wonderfully prosperous Chadley Islands. Now, Dalton, if you could just, respond to my raven about joining the beloved Queen Rhaenyra's war, that would be very much appreciated. Ugh. Someone pass me a bucket. I think I'm going to throw up. Think highly of the Ironborn. They'll never let me live this down in the Discord server. Wait. Tom? We're still recording! Next up, let's have a look at our figurehead. The Blacks have Queen Rhaenyra. The Cons, she's a woman. Personally, that's a bad thing, don't fucking start. And I'm not all for boss bitches, but it's just not the done thing in Westeros to have a female ruler. Especially if there's a male heir. The result is... well, look. The pros? Literally everything else. Rhaenyra was named the official heir, not to mention she spent most of her childhood learning the court, and even took part in her father's small council meetings as cupbearer, all in an effort to groom her for the role. She's learned what it takes to be a queen. At least on paper. In practice, well, if she makes it to the throne, it's always going to be a case of we'll have to wait and see. Now for the noteworthy commanders. Corlys is probably the strongest foot to put forward, Oscar's decently clued up, Mysaria can't be trusted as far as she can be thrown, so yeah, thank fuck they can offset this with their military commanders. In the books, the leadership of the Riverlands forces were a mess. Grandad Tully was initially in charge but incapacitated, so his kid Elmo ignored his wishes to serve the Greens. So Elmo was, for all intents and purposes, the de facto leader of the Riverlands, but he had two sons, Kermit and Oscar, who also did leadershipy things. However, for the show, all three of those characters were just merged into Oscar Tully because he wasn't a Muppet. Did you forget about Oscar the Grouch when you wrote that, Tom? Or is this a trap so you can put a funny editor's note on screen because you knew I'd point that out? Anyway, young and politically savvy is the best way to describe him. But enough! Well, Cregan weren't old and feeble enough to come south, so Roderick Dustin is heading the Greybeards, along with Medric and Tormandala leading the few knights the Wolf could be bothered to send. The one to watch is Roderick. He's a rare combination of brave, wise, and also a little fucking nuts. Oh, say no more, Northman. That's a deadly combo. We'll take him. Then there's Prince Jace, Rhaenyra's heir. He's a good lad, he's educated in war and commanding, but is untested and rather rash. Along with being incredibly whingy in the show, don't at me in the comments, you all think it, I just say it. All of these guys are the small cogs, however. The real powerhouses of the Black's military command are Daemon Targaryen and Corlys Velaryon. Corlys is perhaps the finest naval commander of the day, which is a great thing to combine with that lovely Velaryon fleet of his. And Daemon is the most experienced warrior of the era, both in battle and in command, though he does bring a whole new meaning to the phrase, loose cannon. He's a highly effective tactical commander, but wildly unpredictable and can do just as much harm as good to the Queen's cause when it comes to the political and grand strategic aspects of war. Fucker is called the Rogue Prince for a reason. In other words, he's a bit like Robb Stark. He's the guy you want to send if you want to win a battle, but maybe not the guy you want coordinating a full-scale war. In terms of raw experience and talent though, Corlys and Daemon are without doubt the best commanders gracing the whole game board thanks to their little XP grind in the Stepstones, and definitely worth having on your team. There is one important caveat though, their mental health. It's not really addressed if this happened or not in the books, probably not, but show Daemon, with perhaps a little help from potential Greenseer sorceress Elise Rivers, has clearly been subject to the intense dragon dreams that plague his lineage. And, well, these dreams never seem to end well for the Targaryens that start having them. And Corlys has lost his wife, R.I.P. the queen who never was. And it's possible he still resents Rhaenyra for this due to the circumstances of her death. Because of these factors, both are currently a little unstable. At least this isn't a trait exclusive to the Blacks though. To round things off, well, it's not a dance of dragons without dragons, is it? What are Team Black unleashing from their beast pen? The Blacks still hold the numerical advantage when it comes to war-capable dragons in the opening rounds of the conflict. Moondancer, Stormcloud, and Vermax, due to their small size, serve as exceptional scouting and skirmishing dragons. Then, we've got Cyrax, Sheepstealer, and Seasmoke filling out the middle ranks. These dragons are small and nimble enough to function as recon, but also big enough to get some serious work done on the battlefield. And in the highest weight class, the Blacks come through with 3 heavy hitters: Vermithor, Silverwing, and Caraxes. These are the dragons capable of causing the most devastation on the battlefield, and you could also think of them as the anti-dragon dragons, as they are old enough and big enough to make num-nums of the younger and middle-tier fire breathers. This looks really bloody grand on paper, doesn't it? 9 war-capable dragons to Team Green's 2. But it cannot override the fact they don't have the lizard that counts. Vhagar is monstrous, and dwarfs even the Black's heaviest hitter. Only Vermithor and Caraxes have somewhat of an underdog's chance, but Daemon, love him or hate him, does know his stuff and was spot on when he suggested he and Rhaenys working together was the Black's best shot at dealing with the hoary old bitch. An option which, unfortunately, is no longer on the table. The shine also fades when you look to the skill of the riders. Rhaenyra and Daemon are masterful riders with immensely strong bonds with their fire-breathing friends. Jace and Baelor are well-practiced, but the rest? They're kind of new to this dragon riding business. Not good when Team Green's most formidable dragon is so big that even with an average skilled rider, she can basically one-shot, or more accurately one-chomp, all but 2 of these dragons. Not much room for error in the skies, is there?
The Prince Regent cannot defend against all of us.
I'll take him on myself. Silverwing's a goer, she is. We're afraid of nothing.
If Vhagar's wings cast a shadow over the battlefield, one of Team Black's dragon riders is either going to have to grow some serious balls or rely on their wingmates for strength in numbers. Thankfully, Team Black has Daemon Targaryen and enough dragons to currently make both options viable. That's right, off you pip, Aemond! You fucking coward! And that concludes our overview of Team Black. As you can see, they kind of hold the allegiance of the majority of the northern half of the continent, though do consider this area here is kinda dead wet at minute on military front. They have one of the naval big dogs, and this is all headed by the 2 best military commanders currently alive, alongside more dragons and the most skilled living dragon rider still in the fight. All in all, a formidable power base. What can those lamos on Team Green bring to clash with this titan? Check out Tom's follow-up and part 2 linked on screen now to find out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Fingers crossed this season will pull it back.